Alright, y'all, we are back. Yang and His Terrible Ear Part 2. It is currently 7:11. And we're going to pick up where we left off. I'm going to read the paragraph that we were on, and then we are going to continue. I have about 20-ish minutes, 19, 18 minutes before break ends. So normally I read around this time. I don't usually go live, but I told y'all I was going to read this book, and I read pretty quickly, so I was going to read, like, probably part 1, part 2, like a daily thing, but I want to get through this book as quickly as possible so that I can get on to the next one. And in the meantime, I'm also actually reading audiobooks while I'm working, since I can't have my phone. My phone stays in my locker, but I play audiobooks while I work so that I can continue to educate myself at all times. If you see a headphone in my ear, most likely it's an audiobook, because I don't spend a whole lot of time listening to music. I schedule out my day. I literally do. Like, I spend about an hour or two a day listening to music, and the rest of the time I try to listen to audiobooks, because music is not very productive in my life. It has its uses, obviously. Just in general, you can learn a whole lot more by listening to books than you can by listening to music. So, music is a form of entertainment, and I don't watch TV very often unless I'm at the bar watching a sports game or something. But either way, something to be learned here about productivity and self-improvement and all of that. So hopefully you guys are taking some notes. Let's get into it. Yang and His Terrible Ear, Part 2. He sighed. Oh, and if you didn't watch Part 1, watch Part 1, and this paragraph I'm picking up on right now, right where we left off. He sighed. Very well. I know what parents are like. He put me in the very last row of the violin section, as far away from the audience as possible. When I took my place, the boy sharing a music stand with me said, "Hi. Looks like I'll be your stand partner." It was Matthew, the boy who had gotten me my pen back. I was very glad to see him. Then the conductor raised his stick, and the orchestra began to play. When playing together with other people, my trick was to draw my bow back and forth without quite touching the strings. This helped everybody. It helped me, it helped the other players, it helped the conductor, and most of all, it helped the audience. After a few bars, we stopped playing while the conductor tried to cheer up the trombone player, who was making bubbling sounds when he tried to blow into his trombone. Sorry. Matthew turned to me. "You don't play very loudly, do you?" "I couldn't hear you at all." "You're lucky," I told him. He looked puzzled, but I had no time to explain because the conductor raised his stick again. Matthew played with a dreamy look on his face. I couldn't tell if he was good or not, but he certainly seemed to be enjoying himself. After the rehearsal, the conductor asked third sister to stay behind and play a short piece for him. I waited for her outside so we could go home together. Matthew came up to me while I was waiting. "I heard your sister tell the conductor that your father's a violin teacher?" "Yes, he is," I answered. "Maybe this was a chance to get father another student." "Do you want to take lessons?" Matthew looked very uncomfortable. "I'd really like to, but my folks can't afford it." "My father is cheap," I said eagerly, although I didn't actually know how much father charged. But I felt sure he would love to have a new student, especially someone who really actually liked music. When third sister came out, she was smiling. "The conductor wants me to play a solo for our first concert." I was very happy for her, and even Matthew looked glad. "Hey, that's great," he said. "This is my stand partner, Matthew," I said. "And this is my third sister." "Hi, my name is Mary," interrupted my third sister. I stared at her. I didn't even know she had an American name. She must have picked it without telling the rest of my family. Maybe she felt it would be easier for her new friends to remember. I'd noticed that many Americans had trouble with Chinese names. When I told people my name was Ying Tao, they always asked me to spell it. Even after I spelled it, they had trouble remembering it. I heard you play just now, Matthew said to third sister. You're really good. Third sister dimpled. I'm terrible. You're just saying that to be nice. She didn't mean it, of course. That's the way my parents taught us to answer when somebody praised us. We were taught to be humble. Well, I guess I'd better run, said Matthew. But he didn't seem in a hurry to go. Neither was third sister eager to have him go. Not when he had just told her how much he admired her music. Would you like to come to our house and meet my elder brother and sister? They also play musical instruments. Matthew grinned. Sure, if it's okay with your folks. My parents would be glad to meet one of fourth brother's friends, she told him. I liked the way she said that, as if Matthew was really my friend, as if I had lots of other friends. My parents weren't home, but we found second sister in the kitchen cutting tea bags. This is my other sister, I told him. She plays the viola. Second sister looked a little moody, but not too moody to greet Matthew politely with a hello. I waited to see if she had chosen an American name too, but she just picked up her scissors again. As we went up the stairs, Matthew looked at me. What was your sister doing in the kitchen? It looked like she was cutting up tea bags. She was. At the landing, Matthew stopped and looked at me again. What for? I was used to seeing second sister cutting tea bags, and it had never occurred to me that it might look funny to an American. When we make tea, we put some tea leaves in the bottom of the cup and pour hot water over them, I said. It's ready to drink when all the leaves are wet and sink to the bottom. But why do you need to cut tea bags? Well, my mother saw some tea for sale at the market one day, and she bought a big box, but it turned out to be all tea bags, not loose tea. So, second sister cuts up a few bags every day and pours the loose tea into a jar. It was perfectly obvious to me that tea would steep better when it's loose rather than when it's tightly packed into a tiny little bag like those Americans sell. But I guess Matthew didn't think so. He was still shaking his head. He looked very puzzled. I opened the door to the room I shared with elder brother. He was inside, sitting on the floor and screwing knobs into the ends of orange crates. Beside him were a couple of boards and some bricks. I introduced Matthew, who looked wide-eyed at the crates and boards. What are you making? I'm making a chest of drawers, said eldest brother. The boards will sit over the piles of bricks to make a top, and the orange crates are the drawers. The knobs make it easier to pull them out. Matthew peered into one of the crates, which already contained my shirts and underwear. Why don't you put your clothes in a regular dresser? We don't have enough money to buy much furniture, explained my eldest brother. Gee, I'm sorry to hear that, Matthew said, turning red. I didn't mean to sound rude or nosy, for some reason. He was very sensitive about money. I had to show Matthew that we didn't mind. Chinese people aren't at all embarrassed to talk about money. When we meet someone, we often ask how much money they make. That's okay, I told Matthew. I don't think you're rude or nosy at all. My mother was glad when she found all these orange crates she could have for free, elder brother said. As he continued to put the knobs in, I told him that Matthew loved music. Elder brother looked pleased. Are you in the school orchestra? I play the violin, answered Matthew. I'm Ying Tao's stand partner. Eldest brother stopped smiling. Did the conductor put you there after the audition? I knew why he asked that. He was trying to find out if Matthew was my stand partner because he played as badly as I did. I'm a beginner, said Matthew. I only started playing the violin last fall. The school had an extra violin that nobody else was using, so I asked if I could borrow it. Do you take lessons? Asked eldest brother. Again, Matthew turned red. My parents can't afford them, he mumbled. My father is out of work right now. I suddenly had an idea. Maybe you can give him some free lessons, I said to eldest brother. They don't have to be more than 15 minutes, just long enough to show him what he's doing wrong. Eldest brother looked thoughtful. Finally, he got up and went to his violin case. "Play something," he said, taking out the instrument and handing it to Matthew. Matthew swallowed and wiped his hands on his pants. Then he took the violin carefully and looked at it with wide eyes. "Wow," he breathed. "This is beautiful." He closed his eyes for a minute and then began to play. From the expression on eldest brother's face, I knew that he liked the sound of what he was hearing. When Matthew finished, eldest brother stood silent and then smiled. "It's certainly clear that you have not been playing very long, but you have a nice feel for the violin." Matthew looked almost scared. Then eldest brother smiled more widely. "All right, I'll give you lessons. We can start after dinner tonight if you want. Why don't you stay and eat with us?" Matthew accepted and went to phone his parents for permission. When he came back, he asked if he could go to the bathroom. I was surprised. Did Americans always take a bath before dinner? "Is it all right if you didn't take a bath just now?" I asked him. "Our tab has something in it." It was Matthew's turn to look surprised. "I don't need a bath." "Then why did you tell me you wanted one?" I demanded. "I just want to go to the toilet," he explained. He began to laugh. "And you thought I actually asked to take a bath without someone making me?" I laughed too. This was not like Jake and the others laughing at me for standing at attention when the teacher came in. We were laughing together because we were sharing a joke. I began to like Matthew. When he came out of the bathroom, he looked shocked. Was I seeing things, or were there really fish swimming in your bathtub? "That's just some carp my mother bought in Chinatown today. We're having them for dinner tonight." "But they're alive." "Of course they're alive," I snorted. "My mother would never buy dead fish. Those aren't fresh." "I've never had live fish," Matthew said as we went downstairs. "The fish I ate are nice and dead. They come in a can, or they come as frozen sticks covered with breadcrumbs." When we came into the dining room, Matthew was muttering, "Cut up tea bags, knobs on orange crates, fish in the bathtub. Does your friend always talk to himself?" whispered second sister as I helped her set the table. I just smiled. It was a good thing that second sister couldn't hear what he was saying. Matthew was our first American dinner guest. Father nodded in approval when eldest brother introduced him as my friend and said he had a very good ear. When we eat dinner, we normally help ourselves to food from platters in the middle of the table. But since Matthew was my guest, I acted as a host and I served him the food. After a while, I noticed that he wasn't eating much. He spent most of his time staring at the chopsticks in my right hand. "What's wrong?" I asked. "I've never used chopsticks before," he admitted sheepishly. "Why don't you give him a fork?" Yingtao suggested Mother. "No, please," Matthew said quickly. "I really want to learn how to use chopsticks." So I taught him. I showed him how to grip one of the two sticks steady and jiggle the other stick to close down on a piece of meat. He managed to eat most of the food I served him, but I noticed he didn't eat much of the fish. I'm not used to eating something I just saw swimming just a little while ago, he whispered apologetically. Matthew learned fast, and by the end of the meal, he was using chopsticks pretty well. "Hey, this is good exercise," he joked. "I bet it's going to help my violin playing, learning how to use chopsticks." "If that's true, then why doesn't fourth brother play a little better?" sniffed second sister. "He's been using chopsticks since he was 2 years old." Matthew gave me a sympathetic smile. I was used to remarks from the family about my violin playing, but it was still nice to have someone who was on my side. Alright, guys. I gotta get back to work. Okay? For those of you who are following along for part 1 and part 2, we are now on chapter 3. We are already 40 pages almost. on page 36, just like that. Okay, out of 136. So we are literally like, what, 30, 60, 90, 120? We're about a quarter of the way through the book, just like that. All right? And even if you don't read, can't read, whatever, here's a little secret about the homeless man. I'm dyslexic. Y'all know what dyslexia is? I still can't read that well. But I used to read even worse than this. But just like karaoke, or just like playing pool, or just like roller skating, or anything else, it's all about skill development. You don't get better at nothing. You don't get better at sobriety. You don't get better at living through suicidal ideation, or PTSD, or traumatic experiences, or any of these things without practice. All right? And for years, like I said, I couldn't really read because the A's and the E's and the different letters, mostly A's, E's, O's, anything with a circle, it always mumble-jumbled in my head because of my dyslexia. But through 6 years of reading audiobooks, all right, something with pattern recognition in the brain and hearing other people read books so well, it made me a better reader when I would listen to an audiobook and have the same book in front of me and be able to follow along with the reader. You see what I'm saying? So I used to listen to an audiobook and look at the words, and I wasn't reading it. I had somebody reading it to me, but I'd follow along with the words. And over the last 6 years, that's how I've actually gotten better at reading. So I hope you learned something from this, okay? It is 7:28, all right? I got 2 minutes to get back on the clock. So until part 3 comes along, love yourself, love others, and love the world around you, all right? I don't think I'm doing anything tonight. I might go to Whiskey's and play pool. Pool is free every Monday at Whiskey's. They unlock the pool table, so I might go there, but it's also -1 degrees outside. And I have a heated blanket at the mobile home that I'd really like to get under, so yeah, I don't know if I'm going to pop out after work or not, but that is part 2, Yang the Youngest and his terrible ear. If you were here for part 1 and part 2, drop a comment, let me know you're here, or hit that like button, whatever, it don't matter. But to anybody following along, just know that I appreciate you. Yeah, can't express that enough. My utmost gratitude to anybody who watches these videos. Thank you. Peace.